Hello? Yeah. All right. Okay, we are in business, ladies and gentlemen. Now, apologies for being a bit too eager previously. Yeah. So, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Anand Kurija, and I am here to talk to you about the problem of evil. Now, before we get into this philosophical question right here, we have to go through another problem. Myself. My name is Anand Kurija. This round ball at the front of the picture, that is my brother, Anuj Kurija. This beautiful young lady here in the red shirt, that is my mother, Doris Gabriel. She is a pure Karasan descent, and she is a Catholic Christian. My father here, this happy little Punjabi man you see in the green shirt, smiling very, very happily, he is my father. His name is Anil Kumar. He is a pure Indian, Punjabi, and he is a Hindu. Now, if you look at me and my brother, we don't look alike. We really don't look alike. Hilariously though, my brother on his IC says Anuj Kukreja anak lelaki Anil Kumar. Guess who doesn't have the anak lelaki? I'm not a doctor. Just to be clear, I'm not a doctor. Just relax. It's all cool. Okay. So, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a doctor. However, being in a mixed marriage family is interesting because I get to experience both the Karasan and Indian culture, but also because as a child I was exposed very early to both Catholic Christian religion and Hinduism as a religion. So every Friday my dad would bring me to the temple and I would pray as a Hindu. And every Sunday my mother would bring me to the church and I would pray as a Catholic Christian. As a 5-year-old child, ladies and gentlemen, you can see there's a lot of questions coming in my head. Because like, okay wait, so on Friday there's so many gods, but on Sunday there's only one. And on Sunday he's on a cross, but like on Friday he's not? Like, wait, is he a he or a she? I don't know. So anyway, that has caused a lot of questions to come up in my lifetime. And due to this or maybe other reasons, when a forum asks me what my religion is, I put Hinduism to make it easy. Because they usually don't have atheism on the what. So I would consider myself an atheist. And I just want to tell you guys this so that you can understand my perspective when I am tackling this question of the problem of evil. Now, cute brother, right? So, question everything. That's the first thing I want to tell you guys right here. Because questions are what define us as a species. It's what makes us move forward, and it's what makes us who we are. So, there are a lot of weird questions that we ask ourselves, like, which came first? Orange the fruit or orange the color? Why do cats purr? And why does a bicycle only stand upright when you're moving? And when you're not, it falls down. Now, these questions, ladies and gentlemen, are very weird because we don't have the answers to them off the cuff, right? However, with just a little bit of research, you can already see that these questions are extremely solvable. For example, for the questions that it gives you, the short answers are the fruit, to increase bone density in cats, and angular momentum. However, there are very simple questions out there that don't have simple answers. Very difficult questions whose lack of an answer is interesting yet very disturbing. The question that I'm talking about is, why does evil exist? Now, I'm going to be approaching this from a theistic perspective. What I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be discussing this in assuming that God is a all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-good being. He is all-good, He is all-knowing, He is all-powerful. And this is generally the accepted fact when theists come to talk about God. Now, before we go into the problem of evil, we will be discussing these few topics. The logical problem of evil, the evidential problem of evil, what is a theodicy, and the 3 most famous theodicies that most theists would use. Now, first, some definitions. A theodicy is basically an argument or theory to reconcile the existence of an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good God and the existence of evil. Because, unless you can see, ladies and gentlemen, this provides a contradiction. If God is all-knowing, He knows about all the evil that's going on in the world. If He is all-powerful, He has the power to stop all this evil. And if He is all-good, He would want to stop all this evil. But the evil continues. And this is the contradiction. And this is what theodicy tries to solve. So, the logical problem of evil is the problem of the existence of evil. Why does evil exist? The evidential problem of evil is why is there so much evil in the world? So, the first theodicy is giving up divine attributes. Now, the divine attributes that I'm talking about is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-good God, right? So, usually when people try to reconcile this, when they try to make a theodicy, they either say that, oh, God isn't all-good enough, God isn't all-knowing enough that He does not know all the evil that goes on in the world, or God isn't powerful enough to stop all the evil that's going on in the world, or God isn't all good enough that He wants to stop all the evil that's going on in the world. Now, some theists, for a monotheistic religion such as Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, this is a bit of a problem. However, for polytheistic religions like Hinduism, this isn't much of a problem. Simply because in Hinduism, we believe that all the gods are not all powerful, they are not all good, and they are not all knowing. So for Hindus, they don't really solve this, they don't really have a problem like this. However, most theists do believe in a monotheistic religion, and this is what they have to grapple with. Now, the problem with this theodicy is that it goes against a lot of religion and scriptures. God must be all good, all powerful, and all knowing. So, we move on to the second theodicy, which is the free will defense. Now, the free will defense states that God has maximized the goodness in the world by giving human beings free will. Now, obviously, when human beings have free will, we have the ability to do evil. And some of us, not us, but some of us human beings, we do exercise this right to do evil. And this preserves, as you notice, it preserves all three divine attributes of God. Because He knows of all the evil, He is powerful enough to stop the evil, but He does not do anything against it, because if He does, He removes our free will, and that would result in a worse world in general, right? Now, this theodicy would make sense if we're only talking about moral evil, evil done by humans. Genocide, that one time I pushed my brother down the stairs and he fell down and he almost broke his hand. I'm so sorry. But, that kind of evil. But it doesn't solve the problem of natural evil. Things like earthquakes or cancer. Things that human beings did not do. Now, moving on to the third theodicy, and one that is the most famous, is by a guy called John Hick. He proposed the soul-making theodicy. Now, in the soul-making theodicy, he says that God makes us unfinished. And He puts us in this world to make us stronger, to make us better, and to make us learn about how good is. This follows the logic that you don't really know what pleasure is until you've experienced pain. You don't know what warmth is until you've experienced cold. You don't know what it means to be hungry. You don't know what it means to be full if you haven't been hungry. So in this case, you don't know what evil is until, you don't know what good is until you've experienced evil. Now, in this theodicy, it also says that God is not our benevolent owner, and we are not God's pets. And God's sole job is not to keep us safe and nice and comfortable and warm. God wants to toughen us up. Like Earth is like boot camp or something, and God wants to make us stronger and better. However, the soul-making theodicy tackles the logical problem of evil very, very well. It explains why there's evil. However, there is still the evidential problem of evil, which is why there's so much evil. Because if you say that yes, the soul-making theodicy is true, then why doesn't God just do the minimum amount of evil required to teach all of humanity what good means? Why can't we learn what good means if we get small sorts of evil, like forgetting to do an assignment that was due yesterday, or walking and hitting my leg on the door on this thing, right? So, no more time left. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to bring up, just to conclude again one last time, there are many sorts of theodicies that go around in the world, and the important thing is that you must question everything before accepting. Because if you don't question everything, you're not only losing your free will, you are losing what makes us human. Thank you very much.
Haven't started yet. All right, so imagine right now, at this second, you receive a text message from your landlord or your agent asking you to evacuate from your house immediately, asking you to leave your house immediately. Imagine if you are walking on the road and then there's a person going against you and then he changed his direction altogether. And this actually happened in Malaysia just because you have a different skin tone. And this actually happened to a student from Nigeria that is studying in Malaysia in International University, International Islamic University of Malaysia. So that is the reason I'm here today. I'm here to ask you a question so that you can ask yourself whether or not are all of us here in the room are racist. Let's have a look at our definition of racism. So the definition of racism, yeah, a simple Googling online, you can see this, yeah. It's when you put your dominance, a certain race puts its dominance on another race. I love how Suwarna touched on World War II and the Nazi movement. One of the accusations made are Hitler being racist. Hitler wants to protect his race, and the Aryan race is the best in the world. Let's kill everyone. You know, that is the kind of racism that we're talking about today. So some will be asking me whether I have a yes or no answer, but the answer is where you to figure it out. So there is two ways to tackle this question. So racism can come from two different sectors. So one, is it human nature or is it nurtured? Or is it, so I'm just going to go into on a yes or no question. Whether or not racism comes from within, it is our human nature, we are born being racist and we're proud of it. Or we are being taught being racist. Human nature, basically we are born with it, just like I said just now. So I'm just going to go into a few theories that says probably we are naturally born racist. Probably I don't like this race because I'm born with it. It's social cognitive theory. This theory says that we have too much information. We have millions, gazillions of information, but that we don't know how to categorize it well. So when we have this kind of information, we need to categorize it accordingly. So race or gender or whatever that you can see by using your eye connectively may be used as a technique for you to categorize people. So that comes with it. What comes with it is social stereotypes. You will see, you know, Malays are lazy, Chinese are rich and powerful economically. Those are kinds of things that we can learn from social cognitive theory. So we have the second theory, it's intergroup theories. The wire is very confusing. Intergroup theory, so when you have different groups of people at one place, they will collectively as a group fight with one another for limited resources, limited economically, socially, as well as culturally. So we will fight with one another. So if you have a place like probably Malaysia, so you have different kinds of groups. So these kind of groups will be interacting with each other, not because they are told to be racist. It's because it's just human nature. So I'm just going to go into the next theories. Probably by saying that we are not racist, some of us over here are not racist because we are told to be racist. So nurture is when you tell people a self-development process where people teach you to be in a certain way. So in this case, people will teach you to be racist. So I'm just going to go to what nurture is, and I explained that, and I'm just going to go into neo-racism. So neo-racism is when you have a certain government or a state saying that making policies that says that a certain group is more powerful than another. Let's have a look at Nazis again. Aryan race is more better than Jews, 1,000,000 times better than Jews. You know, those are the kinds of things that will be happening. So racism generally is the hate towards each other, towards other race. Neo-racism is the forming of political mindset or policies that discriminates one race to another. So the question now is, where do we draw a line? Are we racists or are we just a race protector? This line should be drawn very, very well. And these are the kind of things that we need to talk about with our friends, with our families. And if we do not comply with this thin line of ours, we will be stepping into an issue that we cannot be solved, and that is where conflict comes in. So, ask yourself, are we really racists? Because if it's human nature, each one of us are racist today. So if we are nurtured to be racist, not all of us over here are racist. That is the question that we need to ask ourselves. But for me, it's a combination of both. And some of us might think everyone here is racist, but some of us will think only some of us are racist. Ask yourself, are we racist? Thank you very much. I'm Dennis Raab. Thank you.
Women are not going to be equal outside the home until men are equal in it. So when I was 17 years old, my mother asked me what I wanted to pursue after graduation. So I told my mother that, look, I want to take accountancy. My mother looked at me, she said, why do you want to take accountancy? I said, why not? My sister is studying accountancy and I don't see why I shouldn't. My mother said, but you're a boy, your sister's a girl. You should take something more marketable and something which is more demanding. You should be an engineering student. I found it a bit odd. Why does my sister get to study accountancy and I don't get to study something for the simple reason that she is a girl and I am obviously a male student? Every day in thousands of households in Malaysia and in Australia and in many other countries as well, this question gets repeated in many different forms. The question that boys are more suitable for certain different actions and girls are better at certain different actions, which is a notion that I refuse to believe in. Not just when it comes to the question of career, but in many other questions like politics, economics, leadership, and so on. We all know that in Malaysia, women perform better than men academically. Women are more than men in public universities. Women are achieving more distinctions than men. But don't take the statistics from formal sources. Take your own personal experience. When I was in high school, 20 out of 30 students in the first class were girls. 20 of the brightest minds in the first grade science stream were girls. And only 1/3 were male. Which is alarming when you look at the figures for salary in Malaysia, where women are consistently receiving less and less for the same amount of work. And also, when I look at leadership, the head prefect of my school, in a 7-year period, were girls except for that one single year, which led me to start thinking, how is gender inequality not an issue in Malaysia, when it's something that we seem to be putting to the side in favor of bigger issues? Recently, a political figure by the name of Abdullah Zaid Abdul Rahman, he released a controversial statement where he said that women's primary role is in the kitchen with the children. And then Marina Mahathir and Bu Sulid came out with statements to reject this notion, saying that this idea was not only primitive, but it was a backwards idea, because women should also have the same amount of opportunities as men. And then figures like Hanan Othman came out with her list. Look at all these lists of academic and professional qualifications of some of the main female leaders in that organization, which is a fair argument. But what I found odd was that both ISMA and feminists in the opposition, they did agree on one thing, which is the worth of a human being, be it male or female, is determined by your income and the amount of contribution to your society, which I could not accept. For one thing, if a person was to be a housewife, like my mother, her contribution to society can never be determined by her income, because she doesn't have an income stream. Her contribution to society can only be determined by the personal satisfaction which she receives from being a housewife and educating child after child for more bigger opportunities that perhaps she can ever dream of. I'm not going to speak on behalf or against these two parties, but that is what I found, that we still agree that the worth of a person, male or female, is determined by their income. But the public loves this kind of arguments. We love it, we enjoy it. We love to take the blame on men or on women. For example, a popular social media argument, because I'm a keyboard warrior. When girls look at pictures, when boys look at pictures like this, and to be fair, they are more graphic than that, he's labeled as a pervert. But when girls look at pictures like this, she is labeled as being progressive, liberal, being more exciting. This is an example of the mentality towards men and female. Notice the discrepancy. Now, I need to get this off my chest. This issue is not a blame game. It is not blaming women or men. The issue of gender equality is something that we should all sit together and work on, because it is going to affect, and it is affecting us, our fathers, our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, our spouses. And the main problem is the shift in mentality which has to be done. Let's look at a typical household in Malaysia. There's Pak Abu with his wife, Makcik Mina. And that's Ali. Of course, someone's got to be named Ali. and the daughter is Siti, and the youngest son is Bongsu. So let's think about it. So the family is having dinner, and after dinner is done and they've washed the plates, Makcik Mina does the dishes. And Siti helps Makcik Mina do the dishes. What happens to Pak Abu? He watches TV. What happens to the sons? He goes with Pak Abu and they watch TV. Why does this happen? All three of them go to school. All three do their homework. All three have to do some other chores. But when it comes to household chores, women are expected to do it, and it is okay for men to not do it. In more modern societies, like in Australia for example, the same thing happens, but in a different way. What was a different way? Look at sports. I read a book, The Myth of Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. What did Deborah Cameron say? She said that look at modern societies. When kids are growing up, we all love sports, but at a certain age, women start to not love sports as much as men. They start to do other things. This was from her research. They start to love to gossip. What do they gossip about? They gossip about men. They gossip about men. They gossip about boyfriends, about relationships. And this is not because that girls like to gossip more than men. Men gossip equally or even more than women about who's gay, about politics, about who they find attractive, and men also gossip about girls. The difference that Deborah Cameron said is that we have failed to celebrate women for their achievements in sports and competition. Instead, we start to define their success by being modest, covering her aura. We start to define their success like that. Her mannerism, oh, she's a nice girl. She's very quiet in class. I really like her. She's so sweet. But when it's boys, we are okay with him being unproductive, with him being lazy. Why is that happening today? Why is there a difference in the mentality? We are willing to forgive women, but I'm not going to look at her academic qualifications. We saw in social media when a sportswoman, she was talking about revealing her aura, alright? And other things. Why is the highlight made on her mannerism instead of her academic qualifications and her sportsmanship? That's a question to you. So, I'm not saying anything, but even in this competition, not even 20% of the population is girls, right? And I'm not trying to say that girls don't want to compete. No, I'm just saying that in the societal and the household level, we have failed to celebrate women's achievement in these areas instead of other areas. Yes, there's a difference in thinking between male and female, not to mention difference in hormones. I don't deny that. But what I refuse to believe is that gender equality is because of these differences. Gender inequality is not because of the differences. Gender inequality is because of the mental barriers that were placed on girls and boys since they were children from the household. As we have seen in the mentality, like who does the chores at home. In Malaysia, we are very grateful that women are more empowered than some Muslim countries. We have to accept that. These women who are non-feminists, they refuse to accept feminism, but they accept the idea of female empowerment. They continuously inspire me. They prove that silence does not mean that you are stupid. They prove that modesty does not mean that you are uncool. They prove that you don't have to be in a relationship, you don't have to be having sex in order for you to have a voice. Your relationships, in fact, your personal achievement and satisfaction should, in fact, not be determined by who you are having a relationship with. And these are the figures that we need to continue to support, although they do not believe in the definition of feminism. But they do believe in gender equality and female empowerment. So how do we move forward? We need to stop segregating household tasks. And that is back to my quote. If women are not equal as men in the house, we can never expect them to be equal as men outside of the home. We need to stop saying that this is a boy's job and this is a girl's job. So everybody has to contribute to the household chores. And when Pak Abu is raising his kids, he's got to stop saying that you're good at football, but when it comes to Siti, he doesn't even try to celebrate her artistic or studies, so on and so forth. Children know who's a boy and who's a girl. They don't need to be taught. They know the physical difference. But what we need to stop doing is putting the mental barriers on these kids. It's wrong, it's offensive to both men and women, and most importantly, it teaches them at a young age, and when they grow up, that men and women are just having to do different jobs because it's just natural, and this is just how God created us, which is something that we cannot accept. At the end of the day, and I'm just going to finish off here. At the end of the day, if a girl came to me and she's told me that my biggest my biggest goal in life is to get married and be a housewife, you know what? I'm okay with that. But make sure that decision is not because of an uneducated opinion. It should be based on an educated opinion. It should not be because of a bias in the community. And most importantly, it should not be because of the mental barriers placed on her since she was a child. But if that is his decision, I can totally respect that. The same goes for men. If he says that his biggest goal in life is to raise kids, I'm okay with that. But make sure again, that it's because of opportunities given to him and he's been allowed to explore instead of mental barriers. Men are not from Mars and women are not from Venus. We are all from the same place called Earth. And women are not going to be equal outside the home until men are equal in it. Stop the discrimination. It ends today. Thank you.